Hi, and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's Top 50 Movies number 3. So this video is a part of the series of videos where I count down my top 50 favorite movies of my lifetime. This video is for my number 3 favorite movie of all time. This top 50 are just my personal favorite films. Things like box office success, critical acclaim, awards, and popularity are not taken into account. These are the films I personally feel are the best and the ones that most inspire me. Therefore, my top 3 will look extremely different than most top 3 movie lists, and I'm sure a lot of people will disagree with these, but these are the movies that I personally love. So without further ado, we'll get to my number 3, which is Donnie Darko. I'll be perfectly honest, after I watched this movie yesterday in preparation for this review, I feel that I actually should have put this movie at number 2, but I had already committed to put this movie at number 3, so I'll stick with it. Maybe I'll think more highly of my number 2 when I watch that movie again. But to my mind, Donnie Darko is a near perfect movie and an absolute brilliant achievement in filmmaking. There's so many different layers to this film. There's what's on the surface, there's the fantasy type lore story beneath the surface along with its freaky sci-fi elements, and then there's the intellectually mind-bending aspects of this film. And it's just so amazing this film managed to pull off this multi-layered film so well. Every aspect of filmmaking is absolutely brilliant. The story at the heart of it is, of course, the strongest element, as the storytelling is the thing that is most important to me, but the acting is amazing, the original score is amazing, the collection of popular music works really well for the film, the cinematography is great, the costume design is amazing, art department, editing, everything is just so fucking good. It just clicks like no other movie has. This is particularly noticeable when you compare Donnie Darko to any of Richard Kelly's other films. Richard Kelly, who directed this film, did several other films after that absolutely paled in comparison to this one. The writing wasn't as fleshed out, the acting wasn't as good, costume design, music, all those things just didn't click or work. And this really brought home to me that some movies go far beyond their director and depend a lot on everyone who's involved. As many people often forget that filmmaking is a highly collaborative process, dependent on many others to create this one material. Of course, films benefit if the director has a clear vision and the leadership skills to drive the other departments, but if the people involved in those other departments are subpar, then the film won't be as good, whereas everything just came together here perfectly. So this was Richard Kelly's first film, and he had a real hard time trying to sell it. It was a journey that took several years. After many rejections, several studios agreed to make the film under the conditions someone else directed, as at this stage Richard Kelly didn't have any directing experience and very limited experience working in the film industry overall. But Kelly refused to sell it to any studio that wouldn't let him direct. For the longest time, it looked like because of this the film wouldn't get made at all, until finally he had a meeting with Drew Barrymore's Flower Films, and apparently she said she had a hard time being taken seriously as a film producer. When they met with Kelly, they agreed to make the film under the condition that Barrymore had a role in the film, and thus it was a done deal. Now, some people may say Kelly was being stubborn by refusing to just sell the script to a studio and let them make it, but to me I find this extremely admirable that he was willing to risk the film not being made rather than just giving it away to a studio that may or may not do it justice. Personally, I think the chances of that happening, if he did just give it away, would be really high. This is such a unique story. I could very, very easily see this being ruined by a studio more concerned with the almighty dollar than telling a good story. And if you want an example of this, just watch the god-awful sequel to this film that Kelly had nothing to do with. So yeah, I admire Kelly for not being willing to compromise his vision, even if it meant it wouldn't get made, as obviously he did eventually find an outlet which allowed him to bring this very unique and complex idea to perfect fruition. What is even more impressive is that the film was shot in 28 days with a budget of $4.5 million, which in movie terms is a tiny budget, yet everything looks beautiful in the film. The special effects, the art department, and costume design are all perfect. Plus, having a lot of known actors like Mary McDowell, Patrick Swayze, Drew Barrymore, and Noah Weil, it's amazing that it accomplished so much on a low budget. So now let me get into what makes this film so brilliant. First of all, let's talk about why it succeeds on the surface level. As those who wish to ignore or not think about the science fiction and fantasy elements can still find a lot to love about this movie, as it works really well as an indie comedy. The musical montages using alternative 80s music just works so well, and to me are the most iconic and well put together high school musical montages ever. Also, there is a lot of comedy gold moments in the film. If you take out all the sci-fi and fantasy elements, this film still is my favorite indie comedy ever. I would take this over Little Miss Sunshine any day of the week, as we get awesome moments like the vote for Dukakis and what's a fuck ass dinner scene, and of course the gangbang Smurf discussion was also awesome. And then there was the teacher saying he told me to forcibly insert this in my anus, which was an amazingly funny scene. And this film has a large, rich cast of diverse and well-developed characters that all work really well with each other, and most are well-developed and interesting enough to be stars of their own film. At the heart of the movie, of course, is Jake Gyllenhaal's performance as Donnie Darko, which I myself could personally identify with as being a teenager with emotional issues who is forced by his parents to see a psychologist and take medication, trying to make sense of the world. Although I was a teenager in the 90s, not the 80s, but close enough. Had they set this movie in the 60s, for example, they would have lost me, and for the longest time it was so trendy to set coming-of-age films in the 60s or 70s. I'm glad this film breaks that mold, as since that was not my generation, I couldn't identify with those films as much. Anyway, Donnie's character was presented and performed so well, it really held up the whole picture. But the supporting cast was also fantastic. None of the characters felt superfluous or unnecessary, and they really presented a rich and realistic world, which I feel is really important considering all the mind-bending sci-fi elements that were introduced in this film. Donnie's relationship with Gretchen was also extremely well done. It felt real, and it was really touching how these two characters connected, and the relationship is actually very important to the central lore of the film. Donnie's family was also great, as they avoided the extremes of being too dysfunctional or too perfect, and instead came off as a realistic and interesting family that audiences could identify with. For example, they didn't overdo the conflict between Donnie and his mother on having to take medication, and he and his sister had an adversarial yet supportive relationship. And all the other characters, to his friends, to the psychologists, to the teachers, to Jim Cunningham, were all well-rounded characters that added to the plot. There were a couple of one-beat cliche characters in the film, such as the bullies, one of which was played by Seth Rogen in his film debut, but they had a really small role, so I don't really fault those characters for being underdeveloped. And then there's the science fiction fantasy level of the film, which some may find confusing, but it's not clear-cut and simple, and many find it confusing and hard to follow. But even the first time I saw this film, when I didn't really understood all of it, I still was blown away by it and thought it worked really well, because I could tell there was reasoning and thinking behind it as it fit together so well. And it was done in such a way that I had never seen before, that really set this film apart from any other film I've ever seen previous. The film actually follows a lore that is established in the film through the character of Roberta Sparrow, otherwise known as Grandma Death, and there's a bonus material that explains the lore that time travel and fantasy elements follow. Which leads me to the intellectual, mind-bending aspect to this film, because even for those of you who do understand the lore the film is based on, there's still a lot of elements to this film which are ambiguous and open to interpretation, and it's done in such a fantastic way. There's a good way to do ambiguity and storytelling, and a bad way, and I often use Donnie Darko as an example of a good way to do ambiguous storytelling. When talking about bad examples, I usually talk about things such as the final 2 seasons of Lost or other works of Damon Lindelof, who I think has yet to master the art of being ambiguous. I would compare Donnie Darko to Lost Highway, which is my number 9 on my list, so far that it managed to tell an ambiguous story that's open to interpretation but does have a main theme and central plot line underneath it, and it does an amazing job. However, Darko isn't as ambiguous as Highway, and there's more to the surface level story for audiences to grab onto, but if one wants to take it to the next level and think about it more, there are many layers underneath Darko's surface, which is why I liked it better than Highway. So now I gotta talk about the director's cut of this film, and I'm afraid this is the part where I start to get a bit negative. In my top 10, there were 3 movies where I said the extended version or director's cut was far superior to the theatrical release, and they were Leon the Professional, The Return of the King, and Aliens. And in the last review, I mentioned how one might get the impression that I always prefer the extended version to the theatrical release, but I assured you that wasn't the case, because my number 3 movie would be an example of a film where I think the theatrical version was far superior to the director's cut, and that is this film. I hated the director's cut. Many people will rag on Star Wars or other films that tamper with what was already a perfect format by trying to add more, but to me, the amount of anger I feel over tampering done in Star Wars Special Edition pales in comparison to the rage I feel over the director's cut of Donnie Darko. To me, in the theatrical release, they got the formula absolutely perfect, and when they tried to add stuff or change it, they just fucked it up. First and foremost was the music. There's no fucking excuse for tampering with the music in the theatrical release, which was perfect. And some of these musical choices are just cringeworthy and so bad. For example, they open the film with the NXS's Never Tears Apart instead of Echo and the Bunnymen's The Killing Moon, and it just does not work at all. It's been a while since I've seen it because I refuse to watch that monstrosity again, but if I remember correctly, they even took out the churches under the Milky Way tonight over the party scene, which was one of the best sequences in the whole film. Ugh, I just get so angry thinking about it. I remember one person saying, "Oh, it's just music, that's just a minor complaint." No! Music is huge and a large part of what made this movie so great. There was absolutely no reason to fuck with it. Also, the director's cut tries to spoon-feed the audience the explanations of the film by adding text from Roberto Sparrow's book, The Philosophy of Time Travel, into the film, as the book help explains what's going on. This insults my fucking intelligence. I think it works much better not knowing this when viewing the film, and it works much better as a companion piece that helps explain the film, but that people who are interested enough can look it up online or check out the DVD extras. Also, the text flashes so quickly, you have to pause it in order to read it anyway, and ultimately it just looks really cheesy. I can't understate how much I hate it. And I remember seeing a deleted scene on the DVD where Donnie Darko's psychologist tells him the medication is placebo, and I remember thinking, oh my god, that's so stupid, thank god they deleted that scene. But sure enough, the director's cut put that scene right back in there. That scene makes me so angry. Every time I watch the film and they mention the medication, I can't help but think of that stupid placebo line, and it boils my blood. But I try to soothe myself by pretending it doesn't exist because it's not in the theatrical release, which is the true version of the film. Because that takes away so much from Donnie's character that he doesn't really have mental issues, and it makes the film come off as fake and unrealistic, because shit like that doesn't happen in real life. That's just so dumb. So I know earlier I praised Richard Kelly for not letting his vision be compromised, but The fact that he prefers the director's cut and says it is his true vision also tells me a director should not have complete control, which is on the other end of the spectrum. Like there's a spectrum, there's an end. You can either have the director not having enough control and his vision get ruined by the studio, or the other end of it is the director takes total control and doesn't allow for outside input, and it can be ruined that way as well. Because sometimes producers or studios aren't all just about the money. Sometimes they are detached from the material and are able to see what the creator is making when the creator is making a mistake or going too far with something. And this is an example of that. It just further illustrates how every element of the theatrical release just came together perfectly. It's a perfect example of a great collaborative product, which is further evidenced by the fact that most of Richard Kelly's other projects since the theatrical release of the film, including the director's cut, were for the most part failures. So please do not bother with that crappy director's cut and just watch the film in its true original form. So now's the time where I get to the spoiler section of the review, so if you haven't seen Donnie Darko yet, you should go no further and come back when you have seen the film, and thanks a lot for watching. But if you have seen it, please follow me to the spoiler section. So the main thing I want to talk about here is what the film is about, as it can seem confusing at times, and as if they're just throwing a bunch of cool looking scenes together without having a clear idea of what the story is. But in fact, there is an underlying lore that's explained in Roberto Sparrow's The Philosophy of Time Travel, which the director's cut tries to spoon feed to us through text, which is stupid, because if they really want the audience to know elements of the book, they should have related it through dialogue. But anyway, the details of what happens in this film is still open to interpretation, but the overall story has been explained in many bonus materials and fan material online, which I will very basically try to explain here. The film starts off with the creation of an alternate timeline or an alternate universe, which the book refers to as a tangent universe. This was created when the jet engine first crashed into Donnie's room. Now, how exactly the jet engine got there or how this universe was created is an element open to interpretation, but what you need to know is everything that happens after the jet engine crashed in Donnie's room at the start of the film takes place in an alternate timeline called the tangent universe. The important thing to note about the tangent universe is that it's unstable and will eventually collapse, thus creating a black hole in the original timeline referred to as the primary universe, which is what we know as the universe. At any rate, this black hole will destroy the universe, the entire universe, and thus is what Frank means when he tells Donnie the world will come to an end. Donnie Darko is the figure the book refers to as the living receiver, who gains powers when entering the tangent universe. And his job is to return the artifact to the primary universe in order to prevent the black hole that will destroy the universe. In this case, the artifact is the jet engine, as apparently 2 jet engines exist in the tangent universe, and the living receiver needs to return the artifact by using his new abilities, which Donnie does at the end of the film by creating a vortex that takes the jet engine on the plane his mother and sister are flying on in order to return the jet engine to the primary universe. But don't feel bad for them, because after this event, the tangent universe ceases to exist, as it was unstable in the first place. The living receiver isn't aware on a conscious level that he needs to do this, so he needs help from what the book refers to as the manipulated living and the manipulated dead. The manipulated living refers to all the supporting cast in the film who are on a subconscious level helping Donnie accomplish what he needs to in order to save the world. A good example of this is how Drew Barrymore's character writes cellar door on the chalkboard, putting the phrase in Donnie's mind so that when he goes to Roberta Sparrow's house, he knows to go to the cellar door. It's not that the teacher knew she needed to do this, it's just a subconscious level that she needed to do this. And then there's the manipulated dead, which refers mainly to Frank, but some interpret it as also referring to Gretchen as well, since both die at the end of the Tangent universe. Frank, who really is just a guy, he's Donnie's sister's boyfriend, after he is killed at the end of the Tangent universe, travels back in time to guide Donnie along the way. Everything Frank tells Donnie to do, such as flooding the school or setting fire to Jim Cunningham's house, set in motion a sequence of events that lead Donnie to doing what he needs to do. Even some of the things that the manipulated living unconsciously do lead to the sequence of events that all set things in motion. For example, Donnie going to Roberta Sparrow's house and encountering the thieves leads to Gretchen's death, which is Donnie's final motivation for changing the timeline and realizing his power to return the artifact to the primary universe. And after the Tangent universe collapses, the manipulated living and dead remember their time in the Tangent universe subconsciously and through their dreams, which explains the sequence at the end of everyone not being able to sleep through the Mad World montage. If I didn't explain that well enough, you can check out many other videos and articles online that take a lot more time to explain this properly. The point is, this film is hardly a random mesh of cool looking shit. And everything that happens has a purpose and specific reason and a specific function, more so than most films in fact. And all this becomes more clear through repeated viewings of the film. And as I explained before, those are my favorite kinds of movies. And this whole thing is just so awe-inspiring and amazing that they managed to pull it off. But before I go, I want to quickly talk about the ending scene where Donnie returns to his room in the primary universe and is laughing just before he's about to die. There's been a lot of speculation and confusing over, why is he laughing, and I just wanted to give my take on it. For one, he was so upset over Gretchen's death, he was happy that he essentially saved her life by resetting the timeline. And more importantly, he realized that he just saved the world, and the only thing it's going to cost him is his own life. So he's at peace with that and the fact that he's about to die because he just saved the freaking world. To me, this makes this film so amazing, and is the ending which explains this. It so perfectly brings this character's journey together. Also, what's great about the ending is just how emotionally powerful it is, where Donnie's family are all in sadness and showing that Donnie's life had meaning, and then Donnie's mother has that connection through the wave with Gretchen, the girl whom Donnie saved her life, despite the fact in this timeline she never knew him, but she still felt this unconscious draw to him. It was just so good. Anyway, I could go on forever about how great this film is. There are just so many elements, so many moments that make this movie, in my mind, a near perfect film, and my third favorite film of all time. So that's it for my top 50 movies number 3. Be sure to check out my channel for many other reviews, and make sure you subscribe to keep up with the last 2 videos in my top 50 series. And thanks a lot for watching.